Welcome to the Do Zone, where real entrepreneurs share real stories about getting things done. I'm your host, Josh Thomas. Tag me at JT Literally and show me what you do in the Do Zone. Every week, I'll pick the best post to feature across all my social networks. This podcast is brought to you by Factor One. If you're a six-figure entrepreneur who's looking to hit 7 this year, there are 3 key shifts you need to make right now in order for it to be possible. Go to iamfactor1.com and I'll show you exactly what those 3 key shifts are and how you can get them set up for your business in less than 6 minutes. Once again, that's iamfactor1.com. Today's guest is Aleana Kali. She is the founder of Brands Are Alive. She helps conscious entrepreneurs who feel called and guided by a higher consciousness to do their life's work. Brands Are Alive helps those spiritual creatives bring their full self-expression to their brand and marketing with the goal of building a financially successful business without having to dilute the truth of their message and what they came here to do. Aleana, welcome to the Do Zone. Tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
You know, this is one thing I had to learn through practice and experience. It's counterintuitive, but the best way to do it is to think of it as a practice where every day you're doing 1% better and you're stretching your capacity for doing more. The worst thing you can do for yourself is have high expectations, and jump into it and make these big announcements to yourself and keep failing over and over, which reinforces this idea that you're not capable of making a change. It's more important to have momentum, and growth is gradual and it's not linear. So I would say the best thing you can do for your performance is really tuning into your feelings, believe it or not, and being more mindful of your inner child than anything else. Because that's the part we're talking to, right? The emotional side, that's the part that we have to nurture and care for.
So much to unpack in that, but I will latch on to the fact of 1% better every day. And you also said something else that was important here was set challenging goals, but don't be unrealistic. And that's where I've run into so many problems working with entrepreneurs who say, I want to make $100 million this year, but they haven't cracked 1 million yet. Mm-hmm. And that's cool, man. Like, I want you to get there. I want you to be successful. But we also need to set goals that we can achieve. Like I like the SMART framework. And the A in SMART is achievable. And the idea here, and I want to hear what you have to say about this, is that a common saying is, hey, we shoot for the moon, we land among the stars. I think that's jacked up. It's like, I don't want to plan a road trip to Disney World and like be okay with Gulf Shores, Alabama. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah. It's like whatever my heart really wants, I'm going for that because that's what I want.
I know.
But also, I think there is so there's a lot I could say, and there's a lot I could say about this. Time is what trips us up. It's not that we don't believe that we can do X, is that we set some timeline and we think we have to have it. And do you know where that comes from? That comes from discomfort with the present moment, discomfort with what is. I don't like what is. I don't like my current situation so much. I hate it so much. I want to run away from it. So I need to run away from the pain, or not being where I want to be is so painful. I make it mean something about myself. And it becomes this, it becomes like you're just flapping around, and instead of swimming, you're really just flapping. You're putting a lot of energy everywhere, trying to escape the present moment. You need to make the 100 million, like you said, in 1 year, which you don't have a plan for, that you believe in. You feel demotivated. You're lying to yourself every day, kind of like, I believe in this, but like, there's no congruency there. That there's like inside the fort of your mind, there's a voice that's telling you that you can't do it. And that voice is not necessarily doubt. Sometimes it's like, hey, I just don't believe in the plan that you created for me. Like your mom is telling you, I don't believe in the path. Tell me a better story that I can actually believe in. And it becomes like, okay, I do want $100 million, but maybe I'm not so attached to having $100 million in a year. Maybe I can set that as a vision and then be like, these are the milestones that are exciting, it's very important, right? Like if it's not exciting, if it's too realistic or too easy, it just doesn't get us moving. But if it's too big, then it's debilitating. So we have to find that balance, essentially.
Have you found in working with your clients, have you found that people sometimes they set these grandiose goals almost because they know they can't achieve them, and so it's like, that's so far away, I can't be judged for not hitting that tomorrow?
That is another reason, yeah, definitely. And I've definitely seen that. There's that like discomfort of having to let go of who you are to get to kind of the next level and everything that comes with it. If we have a self-image of being somebody who doesn't achieve, then we're of course going to set things that are going to protect us from moving in that direction. There's a lot into it. I don't think there's one answer fits all. But that's definitely a thing. There's definitely a fear of that.
It's so I've been on 10,000 sales calls, and like you kind of over time, when you have the same conversation enough, you start to develop these kind of avatars where people have these certain word tracks and thought patterns that are like predictable. And the one thing I have an avatar that I use called Penniless Pat. And Penniless Pat is like, well, first of all, he's broke, and so he has no money, right? But Penniless Pat has all the big words. He's like, oh yeah, man, I want to make all the money. And it's almost like the fact that he's talking so much about money reveals to you that he doesn't have it, and almost reveals to you why. And so when you were saying that of like, hey, we set these goals far off, that's kind of the pattern that I see. And it serves kind of as a good transition into something that you talk about a lot, which is people tend to focus on time management as a way to hit their goals and to stay productive and stay on task. And you already kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's not about time management at all. Time management, actually, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be managing your energy. Could you talk about that?
Of course, yeah. I think you'll agree with me that it doesn't matter if we work on something for 8 hours versus 4 hours. In fact, doing it in 4 hours when it should have taken us technically 8 hours, and still doing it well enough is better, right? It's not necessarily about the hustle, but like some people can achieve more in 1 hour than other people achieve in 2 days of work. So it's how you're managing your energy. It's how you're managing your energy in the sense of like your physical energy, your mental energy, and all of that, but also how you're protecting your energy from leaking. Because if you have things in the back of your mind, like thoughts and ideas that are unresolved, emotions, trauma that's not worked through, limiting beliefs, like I said earlier, parts of your mind telling you that this thing is never going to work, seeding the doubts and all of that. All of these things are going to drain your energy, of course. And, instead of having your focused attention on one thing and one thing only, and trusting that that's the thing that's going to make some meaningful progress for you, instead, your mind is like scattered in all these other places. And then you're racing against time. And the one example that I heard before that I thought was a really good example, I don't know that men will understand it as well as women do, but like if you're like trying to get ready and you're trying to do it as quickly as possible, and you're trying to put on your mascara, and if you're rushing and you poke yourself in your eye, now that thing that would have taken you 60 seconds or 30 seconds, now you have to spend 20-30 minutes fixing everything all over again, and the crying and all of that. It's like, great, you saved yourself 10 seconds there, but it's like
I hate it when I poke myself in my eye with my mascara.
Right, but it's just one example of when we are flabbergasted, when we are in the energy of not, I don't have time because it's a fact, like I gotta jump on a call in X minutes, but more like I don't have time, with a feeling of scarcity. That's when we stop focusing on what can I focus on, what should I focus on, what is the best use of my time right now, and we start to go more towards trying to control everything else that is not within our control, because we are fighting against time. We make time our enemy, essentially.
In the whole time that I'm listening to this, I'm reminded there's a book on my shelf here called The Miracle Equation by Hal Elrod, and Hal says, he's also the author of a book called The Miracle Morning, which more people are familiar with.
I think I've heard of it, yeah.
And so Hal says that he talks about time. Now, so a SMART goal, it ends with T, time bound. And Hal says you shouldn't set time frames necessarily. You
Mhm.
shouldn't worry about hitting a goal in a certain period of time. What
Yes.
you should instead focus on is becoming the type of person who can hit the goal.
Thank you. That's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. That's why I said earlier, you can say I'm going to do $100 million at some point. I let go of the timeline because I don't have a clear plan or path for that I can say, okay, it's likely going to take me this much. This is not a project that I've done in the past, or that I don't have a good concept of what $100 million is. Basically, the number is way out of my league. That if I were to say I'm going to hit $100 million, I don't have a clear plan for that. $20 million, I could plug that onto a timeline. 100 million, not so much. $1 billion, forget about it. So everybody is in a different place, and you have to know what numbers are you comfortable with? What ideas are you comfortable with? What can you see in your consciousness? What can you accept? What can you not accept? And let go of the timing. This is why I said we have to make peace with where we are, figure out a way to love where you are, and add more of the things that you can love to your present moment, so that you're not waiting for a tomorrow to live. Like, I've got to make that 100 million so that I can finally allow myself to be this kind of person, do these kind of things. I often talk to people, I'm like, hey, like, tell me about a perfect day in 5 years. And they're like, well, I'll be waking up at 5 a.m., going to the gym, doing these things. I'm like, well, are you doing these things now? No. Like, do you need $100 million to do? No, I don't. So it's like, you think magically when you have the results, you're going to transform into this ideal version.
Yeah.
And the reality is like built brick by brick, piece by piece, point by point, 1% by 1%, making a better choice every time, picking yourself up when you don't make the choice. Don't beat yourself up. There is zero value in beating yourself up. Just what could I have done better next time? What am I going to do differently? What am I going to try? And understand that it's not a linear process. And like I said, stretch yourself, basically train yourself, practice getting better and better at it. It's a skill.
And so you mentioned several times about being conscious. And I know that you've built an entire company around conscious entrepreneurs. So tell me a little bit about that. Who is it for, and how can people connect with you?
Sure. So by trade, my work is in marketing, right? So it's like, how did I go from branding and marketing to this kind of work, and like diving into creativity and psychedelics and consciousness and all of that? It's basically, I realized that what I needed more than anything is just bring all parts of myself to the work that I do, and make it like, I need all my interests, all of me in the work that I do. I can't do this compartmentalized way of approaching life where I have this box, this square for this one thing, and this box and this square for this other thing. That's not how I like to live my life. And I recognize that a lot of people are in the same boat. They need to be their full, authentic selves everywhere they go, and not have to pretend to be someone that they're not. And I was like, that's important to bring into branding, because historically, branding and marketing is all about looking at what does the market want, and then trying to fulfill what the market wants. But my approach is actually inside out. So getting to know yourself, who you are, who you came here to be, what makes you feel alive, as I like to ask that question. And then from that, finding a way to merge what the market wants with who you are and what brings you more life and more fuel to your soul, essentially. So that's in a nutshell what I do. And now, I mean, how I do that, there are different ways that we do that, but that's the point of everything that we do. It's one thing and one thing only, and that's for people to bring more of who they are to their brand and business and everything they create. So that's what we do at Brands Are Alive in a nutshell. Yeah.
I love it. And so how can we learn more about that? Where do we go?
Brandsarealive.com. I send a video usually once a week, just giving tips to, I love working with solopreneurs these days, and people who are just starting businesses from the heart, small businesses generally. So I don't think that my advice is really for somebody who, unless you have a business that's a reflection of who you are, your passions and your purpose and that good stuff, it's probably not going to be for you. But that's the best place to go. Newsletters, sign up, get the weekly video. That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brandsarealive.com. Yes.
Yep.
All
yep.
right. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to wrap up from here. Thanks so much to Aleana Kali for joining us and sharing some wisdom about how she gets stuff done. You can connect with her and learn more about her business, Brands Are Alive, by going to brandsarealive.com. If you listen to us on your morning commute or your workout or you're out in the field, be sure to snap a selfie, tag me at JT Literally. Tell me what you do in the do zone. Also, if you're ready to break the 7-figure barrier with your business, but you know what got you here ain't going to get you there, we can help. Go to iamfactor1.com now and let's see how much impact we can make in less than 6 minutes. Know this, you are factor one for your own success. Now let's get to work.